Welcome back to Nick Lenz's Comic Corner Classics as Non-Classic. This is episode number 1360 and Doubleshot number 1254. I have the start of an era, though it kind of isn't what I started the last era of this book. The other one is the end of an era. First, we have the start of a new era. We have Doctor Strange, Volume 1, Across the Universe. This collects the first 5 issues of Doctor Strange Volume 5. Yes, Volume 5. Yeah, they decided to relaunch the book after issue 390. Yep. It was right after the Doctor Strange Damnation. Tentacles left the book, so yeah, this is relaunched as part of the Fresh Start Initiative. Now, my opinion about the Fresh Start Initiative, I don't mind the story. The stories are perfectly fine. I love the stories they told. It's the whole thing with the relaunches that was completely unnecessary. Yeah, relaunching of the books number 1 was completely unnecessary to do. If you want to do a fresh start, fine. Whatever. Did you have to hit the restart button? Oh, because Marvel's obsessed with the number 1. Now, the story for this one is quite interesting. Now, you probably think, okay, if Danny Coe's not writing a book, who is writing this book? Mark Waid. Which, when I heard it, this was about 3 years ago, I still think this was quite strange because Mark Waid, as far as I know, I don't think he's ever dabbled in magic stuff before, but he has dabbled with some cosmic stuff before, so he has big teeth there. Now, the story for this one is Doctor Strange. You can tell by the cover, he goes to outer space. Now, this woman here, who he names Kana, you're probably thinking, does she show up in issue 1? Nope, she does not appear into issue number 2. Yep. And the story of this one is this, is that Doctor Strange has been cut off from the Earth magic for some reason, so he goes to see Tony Stark. Do you have a solution? Yeah, go to space. He's like, okay, you got a spaceship? He's like, yeah. So, goes on a spaceship. Oh, and by the way, he actually put like an implant behind his ear, a universal translator, which, that's interesting. So, he actually is trying to get some idea basically what magic. Apparently, the word magic is basically a word that a lot of alien cultures have never heard before. Now, I should point out, though, not the first time Doctor Strange has been to space. No, not really. I think the last time officially he went to space was back in the 90s. Yeah, last time I could think of anyways, it was back in the 90s. But as of recently, he's mostly stayed to Earth or going to another dimension. But going to outer space? Yeah, it's a bit unusual. For a fresh start idea, not a bad idea. So, he's in the present next issue, he meets up with Kana. Though, her real name is Pasophius. I think that's how you pronounce her name. Yes, so, he's like, I'm not going to try to pronounce it, I'm going to just call you Kana. And the thing is, she has no problem with this at all. Nope, and she starts traveling with him. She becomes his constant companion. Meanwhile, though, on Earth, we see Bats. He's Doctor Strange's ghost dog. He's talking to some mysterious person. I'll get back to him. So, the first place they go to right after they escape in Doctor Strange, they encounter the Time Stone. Yes, the Time Stone. It's a good thing Doctor Strange knows what the heck this thing is. As for how Kana doesn't know about it, that's probably because she's not that well known. Probably doesn't think Time Stone is probably a myth, whatever. So, Doctor Strange basically, in order to make sure that the Time Stone gets away from her, he uses this strange little device sort of wipe her memory of the encounter. As far as I know, it's never referenced again. It's almost like this whole encounter was completely forgettable at best. And then they go to another planet where they run into a Super Skrull. Yes, the Super Skrull. And it's a good thing that Doctor Strange knows about these guys because he fought them during the Secret Invasion. Yeah, he knows full well about this. He mentioned about the Fantastic Four's encounters with the Skrulls over the years, and the fact the person they encounter is a Super Skrull. Not the main Super Skrull, mind you. This is year before Empire, so I don't know if this is Call. As far as I know, they don't confirm this is Call. It just referred as a Super Skrull because, well, he's got the power of Fantastic Four. I don't know if she knows who the Fantastic Four even is. I mean, she clearly didn't know anything about the Time Stone, but the Skrulls, she knew who the Skrulls were, but she didn't know they were evil shapeshifters. Yeah, she's heard of the species before, but she's probably not she's not that familiar with them. Probably because she's an archaeologist. Yeah, she's an archaeologist. Like, okay, not a bad idea. And after this is where they meet. This is where they found the time zone, which I thought was quite cool. And this is pure fun. Now, meanwhile, though, back on Earth, we hear who Bats has been talking to. Doctor Strange. And you're probably like, wait, isn't Doctor Strange off in space? What is he doing on Earth? 2 doctors. They explain this in the very next story arc. But for the first arc of this run, this is really good. Yes, I thoroughly enjoyed it. And it's only one artist for these years, not 2. One artist. It is Jesus Salas. This is fantastic artwork. Really good. Also, he counts a dwarf in here, which so cool. Yeah, here's Doctor Strange in the classic Steve Ditko costume, which, by the way, he wears on here. Though, for some reason, by the way, I give this book I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10. So it's really good. Yep. Now, strange thing is that the Strange in Outer Space is wearing the Steve Ditko costume. The one in the comic is wearing the Chris Bachalo costume. I'm not really sure why, but that's basically how it is. Alright, moving on to... Now, this is technically the last writer for this book, because even though this book was relaunched, I think at the late 2019, but the book ultimately canceled the 6 issues due to the pandemic. Yep, that was the reason for it. Alright, next up, we have the end of an era. Supergirl. Infectious. This is the 3rd volume for the series. This collects issues 34 to 42 of Supergirl Volume 7. Yep, the end of this book. It also contains Supergirl and number 2. And it also contains a story from Leviathan Rising Special, which basically is back to politics. Now, the main book, you have 2 writers. First, it was Marco Andrego, and then he leaves. And then the rest of the book is done by Jody Houser, who is a fantastic writer. And most of this book deals with basically first deals with the Leviathan stuff. That's the first portion of this. And then a lot of the rest of this is, the Infectious storyline, which, oddly enough, unlike everybody else, which 1 or 2 issues of their book that tied into this particular mini event, this thing had an extra official arc and had Supergirl have a rematch with Wonder Woman, which that was quite interesting. How did this happen? She got infected by the Batman Who Laughs. Yep. It's a side story for the first story arc for the book Batman Superman, which they reference in here. In the end, she's cured, restored back to normal, and then spends the next couple issues trying to avoid being arrested by some crooked government agency. Kind of a weird way to end the book, though. But this book, really good. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Yes. Now, despite the fact that this book was canceled to low sales, Rob Diddy's one of the other writers of this book. I think he writes the annual. Yes. The other writers are... There's actually about 5 artists in this. Yes, 5. You have Rachel Scott, Eduardo Padisca, Hala Ferreira, Laura Bergaya, and Inca Medina. Now, when I initially saw this one on Amazon, this is another one basically where they actually, with this one, they didn't really say exactly what issues were in here. But I was surprised. 9 issues of the series, of the last 9 issues of the actual series itself, and the second annual, which that's quite something, though. Because overall, I think this is basically 6 annuals book has had. Yeah, here's the thing. The previous volume for the series had 0 annuals. This volume had 2. Yes, had 2 the whole run. Yep. This book I found to be really good. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I give the book a 9.5 out of 10. Final thoughts on the Supergirl run plus, here's basically 3 trades I own. I don't own the Steve Orlando stuff because I was reading this from the library. But my final thoughts on this era for Supergirl, for one thing, love the classic logo. I love this logo. It's very much like the 90s Supergirl, and lucky enough, of course, the Supergirl Volume 5 did use the same logo, which I do appreciate that. Now, I get the reason why the book ended. Now, initially, this book was actually supposed to end with issue 20 because DC had no idea what Bendis' plans were for Superman. So they ended this book at issue 20, and then they basically undid a cancellation, and it managed to last for about 22 more issues. Basically, the 3 trades collected here. Yep. Now, you're probably thinking, is the first 83 trades? No, that wasn't what Steve Orlando did. Yep. Yeah, it's something, though, that this basically is technically the Marco Andrego / Jody Houser run. But I'm considering this basically finale for this run itself. Now, when you started with the Steve Orlando run, which basically, my friend Edgar was not really a big fan of the Steve Orlando run, mainly because they have so much stuff from the Supergirl TV show. If you actually bother to read it, the only connection it has to Supergirl is the fact that there's very little connection. Like, you have Jeremiah and his wife being Supergirl's adopted parents. She works for the DEO. She works for Cat Grant for Catco. Excuse me. It's not heck. The costume itself is not, let's say, I think it is partially based upon the Supergirl costume she wore from the show. But basically, post that run, they pretty much had her basically go back to the style of the Silver Age. Yeah, if you look at her costume, it's very heavily inspired by the Silver Age version of the character. Which I do appreciate the artist for doing that. Now, as for Jody Houser coming out to the last few issues, well, she has written Supergirl before, though during the second half of Steve Orlando's run. She basically was the co-writer for the book from issue 11 to issue 20, though she skipped one issue. Yeah. Though the book itself was really good. I thoroughly enjoyed that run. It was amazing. Sad to have Steve Orlando leave the book in place with Mark Andrego. This was an interesting book. Unlike, let's say, with Titans, that basically had the whole black stuff here. Now, unlike with Titans, which basically was very mixed best, the Mark Andrego one I actually liked. Now, the rumor is the reason why that the book wasn't selling too well, because of all the crossovers and the tie-ins of Superman that it had instead of standing on its own. Yeah, that's the reason why the book ended, which, if you read it, yeah, I can buy the fact that's the reason why this book ended. Yeah, it's something though. 22 issues, about 2 years, basically. Now, when I heard initially this book was ending issue 42, I'm like, that's interesting, because that makes it 2 issues longer than the last volume that published for Supergirl. Yes, the previous volume lasted for 40 issues. This one is 2 issues longer, which means that this book is the third longest volume of the entire series. The longest is still the Peter David run from the 90s. That was 80 issues. I'd say second longest was volume 5, which the first writer was Jeff Loeb. The final writer of the run was Kel Suhan, who only just did the last few issues of the book. And this book, surprisingly, didn't have as many writers as, let's say, Supergirl Volume 5. Yeah, they went through about 5 or 6 different writers over the course of 6-7 issues. This run only went through, I'd say, 3. Yeah, but at least the first 20 issues had one writer with it. Yeah, when they brought the book back, like first it's Mark Andrego and then Jody Howes to finish the run up. Yeah, but all in all, this run I actually liked what basically Mark Andrego was in the book. I mean, the premise was interesting, though they wrapped up in the first story arc where basically she was going to investigate the source of what was the reason for the guy who destroyed Krypton. Well, the reason why he did it. And of course, she carried on his axe of the whole run, which that was actually quite interesting. Now, the problem with a lot of people had with Bendis' run, like a lot of people thought that he was going to retcon almost everything associated with Superman that Dan Jorgens and Peter Tomasi established over the course of the previous 2 years. From what Bendis has stated in an interview, and what he said is he's not going to ignore anything. He's basically going to leave all that alone. He just retconned the stuff basically related to Krypton itself, not the actual stories with the Superman family. I've actually messaged him on Instagram about this, and he really loves the Superman family. He loves it. He's not going to basically kill off John and divorce Superman and Lois. I mean, a lot of people feared that when this run started. Now, I'm not going to basically fully go to my final thoughts about this run because I haven't finished reviewing Action Comics and Superman. But from what I can tell so far, he didn't do that. He did basically move John Kent away from the book briefly and then aged him up by 8 years. I know my friend Tibby was not a real big fan of this. I didn't have a real big issue with it, per se. Now, I have no problem with the Superman-Lois relationship. It's great. I think Bendis did a great job with it. they didn't divorce, and John Kent wasn't killed, because that'd be quite stupid to kill off a child. Yeah, I know James Robinson did it in Crime for Justice, but he probably had to do it because of an editorial mandate. I don't think it was actually his idea to do that. Not necessarily. And in the case of Supergirl, I think Mark Andrego and Jody Howells did a great job with the book. I think the Infectious storyline was actually really good. Something new for Supergirl. I mean, when was the last time we saw her basically get infected and had her turn evil? Well, not in the case of Dark Supergirl. Not that. Oh no. Basically, where something like this happens. Yeah. But this was a good run overall. I liked it. I thoroughly did. And it's something now the trade payback for this. Now, I'm looking at this. Now, I paid for this book like about $15 for this book on Amazon. Like, do you know how much this book actually costs? $25. Which, given the size of the book, yeah, that's perfectly reasonable. Yep. So, yeah, that's it for particular review. Stay tuned for my review a little bit later. I'm just basically going to rest my voice for a bit before I do my next video, because basically I'm going to do a redo of episode 66 for Comic Book History because I accidentally deleted it. But I expect a video up soon. Okay? Next video. Bye.